it is very important for us to pause and celebrate our wins, not just look forward about what we need to do or what we want to do better, or set more goals. It's celebrating the goals that you've met. Hi, I'm Peavy.
Hi, I'm Jamie, and welcome to Blank is a Mother podcast. We've been best friends since college, and we're using a comparative lens to share how we're coming into our power after 40.
We aren't supposed to compare, right? Well, we all know that's not realistic.
We started this podcast when our boys were toddlers. They are growing fast, and we've been growing too.
The first few years of motherhood shook our lives and friendship like no other experience has. And by comparing and contrasting our evolution up to that point in our lives and beyond, we have discovered the strongest threads of sisterhood yet.
Listen, we don't have all the answers. We sure have made some missteps.
Follow along as we do our best to nurture our friendship and build an inclusive community while making 1,000 tiny mama decisions in an unfair world. Hi, I'm Peavy.
Hi, I'm Jamie, and welcome to Blank is a Mother podcast.
Today is our 24th episode.
Yeah.
It's the end of season 2.
That's crazy.
And today we're talking about pausing is a mother. Taking a pause.
Yeah. Pausing. I'm not doing this to you today. Pausing to reflect on 2024. We're going to pause and, talk about pausing in a lot of different aspects, but I think we're going to start with pausing and really reflecting on what came to be of 2024 and reflecting on that a little bit. And then talking about some stuff for 2025.
Yeah, more pausing in 2025.
Can we first celebrate the fact that we are wrapping up with 2 seasons, 2 full seasons? And I don't know about you, Pete, but when we started, it was hard to, well, maybe not hard to imagine, but it came upon us quickly, I guess I should say, that we recorded 24 episodes.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think we had any expectations. We were just doing it and winging it and enjoying it. And then we're like, oh, look at us. We're still going. People are listening.
And they're enjoying it. They're not just listening, but they're enjoying.
Yeah. I mean, we were just looking at some of the stats and we have, what was it, over 4,000 downloads in 2024 across 19 different countries, which I was shocked
to see.
Yeah. And I think the coolest stat our producer shared with us that was really cool is folks are listening to each episode from start to finish 81% of the time, which in of itself sounds like a lot. So that's cool, but it's also more than the average. I guess the average is 75%. It just means people are actually engaged in the entire conversation from start to finish, which is really awesome.
Thank you all for all your support, for even getting us to the end of the season, and for listening to our episodes, because you all know sometimes we like to get to chit-chatting and it can be a longer episode, but we are thankful that you continue to tune in. And of course, thank you to Alicia and Jess and the team for helping us bring these episodes to reality, man. We appreciate y'all.
You want to take a minute to pause and reflect?
I think maybe we can start, Peeve. I'm going to ping you with one and see, get the conversation kind of started here as we reflect on 2024. What was one of your most cherished moments of the year?
For Thanksgiving this year, we went to Pennsylvania to spend Thanksgiving with my family on the East Coast. We were in this little mountain town where my sister's family has a house, and it has a bunk room. We've stayed there before for other visits, and Everett is obsessed with his older cousins, Bella and Sophie, who are 20 and 16. But yeah, so Everett was desperate in the past to sleep in this bunk room with his cousins. They have they're teenagers and they want to stay up late.
Girl, they're not teenagers. They are young adults.
Yes, young adults. But what I'm saying is they stay up way later than us older adults do. They want their hangout time in the evening. They've got friends and boyfriends and they got stuff to do in the evenings. But Everett goes to bed at 7:30, maybe 8. It's not like you can just throw him in the bed and be like, peace out, especially in a bunk room in a strange house, So my nieces, I was going to give them a get out of jail free. Like, don't worry about it. I know you said next time when you come over Thanksgiving, we can all sleep in the bunk room together. It'll be great. I was like, we can just not do that. And they were like, no, he really wants to. And we'll do it. I mean, these girls are the sweetest. The first night was when we first got there was just like, I will spare you the details, but it was one of the most hellish nights that Everett has had. Like, I think he was just like discombobulated and, different time zone and all whacked out. And like, he did some weird things. And my oldest niece, Bella, just handled it. She was like up in the middle of the night. And my youngest niece pretended to sleep through the whole thing, which I'm like,
I don't blame Sophie one bit.
I get that. But Bella was just like, oh, I'll just take care of it all. And meanwhile, I was sawing logs up on the second floor. They didn't come get me. They just handled it. That night, my sister and brother-in-law had to step in and help too. Like, it was a whole thing. Anyway, so after that, I was like, no, really, guys, we can just cut this up. Like, this is like harder than I thought it was going to be. They're like, no, it's okay. They kept on the bunk room train. And there was one night where Bella's boyfriend was over too. And the three of them tried to put Everett to bed. And they were like doing this covert, like super Navy SEAL, like trying to get him to go to sleep. Anyway, it took them 2 hours to get this joker to bed. But it was just really heartwarming that they were in it to win it. They were not going to give up on this bunk room situation. They weren't going to disappoint Everett.
Aww.
Even when he was challenging, they were just like, we got you, buddy. It was very sweet.
The team effort. And they knew it meant something to him and they kept doing it, which is awesome.
Yeah. And they were like, don't worry, we got it. Like, I just stayed out of it. Brett and I just stayed out of it. And it was very cute.
Cute and probably needed for you and Brett.
Oh, yeah, for sure. And in the daytimes, my sister had like 50 million activities lined up. So there was not a moment that went by that Everett could have been bored. She was like, oh, here's the next one. Oh, here's another craft. And here's this and that. Like, they were just so pumped on having us all there, but especially Everett, like taking him out into the snow. And then we did like this whole Christmas tree lighting thing at the end. It was like very Hallmark movie. It was very cute.
I'm jealous that Everett got to play in the snow because LJ hasn't had like a full snow moment yet. Like, he's had sprinklings and made a little, bootleg snowman when they had just enough, like 2 years ago. It was like that poor little joker lasted a couple hours and he was gone. So I'm jealous and excited for Everett that he got to play in the snow.
He's hooked. I mean, he doesn't like the beach, which is very heartbreaking for his marine biologist mother, but he loves the mountains. He loves the snow. He loves to rock climb. Like, I think he's just a mountain man.
Mm-hmm.
What about you? What's one of your cherished moments? I mean, I know we have a million.
I do. I have several, but I will say what comes to top of mind first was my trip with my mom. We have not had time to do that and to love one each other and pour into each other. And now that I am a mother, I'm like, holy hell. I am so sorry, baby. For me, I took for granted, I can acknowledge the privilege of having very present parents and all the sacrifices. You don't think about it. I didn't think about it growing up. It just became my norm. I thought it was normal. And when you have kids, you really just recognize how much goes into being a present parent. And it's a lot. Yeah. Having that time with my mom to celebrate each other and to pour into each other, celebrate our journeys. We haven't had a chance to do that in I don't know when, in a long time, if ever. And that circumstance, and it was awesome. So that was one of my cherished moments because I'm becoming more and more aware and my sensitivity is heightened to the fact that my parents are aging and I'm not close by. It was cherished because it also reminds me that time is of the essence. And if I want to do something, to do it now because none of us know what's around the corner. So I'm glad that Mom and I had an opportunity to pour into each other and discuss our breast cancer journeys and just love each other.
I'm glad you said breast cancer journeys at the end, because I was going to say, for any new listeners, the journeys that Jamie's referencing.
Yes. Yes. My getting over mine, my mom is 3 times. So we were able to just celebrate being on the other side of all of this and yeah, just pour into each other. There's a lot that goes into that.
And you recorded an episode together.
We did. And that was, I don't even want to say therapeutic. It was just nice. It's different when you're in it. You're just kind of going through the steps and you're getting through to the other side. But when you can take a step back and look from the outside in and share your stories, it hits a little different.
Yeah. What I thought was very sweet and touching was how you walked your mom through some of the sharing of her stories, because she was glossing right over some really challenging things.
Mm-hmm.
Probably because she just doesn't remember the details, maybe, or just was so in survival mode and like get through it, forge ahead mode, that she wasn't focused on those things. But you were like, Mommy, don't forget this happened. And what about that? So I thought that was really touching.
Thank you, Peeve. I think she's been conditioned to say like, but the positive is, and the positive is, you know, you and I talk about toxic positivity and that everything doesn't need to be positive. You can still be optimistic and upbeat at times, but it's also okay to say this sucks and I'm sad and all those emotions. My mom is just very much like, your attitude determines your altitude. So it's all positive and I can find the silver lining. So I was trying to slow her down so that she could also acknowledge that it was a journey. Yes, you were positive. Yes, you got through it, but it also sucked. And we can celebrate both parts of that.
And I think too, when you're on the other side of something, you tend to only want to focus on the positives and you don't want to dwell on anything that was negative or hard. And I think that's important to do, like to look at the whole comprehensive journey, not just cherry pick out the positives. So anyway, that was very sweet. You did a very nice job.
Thank you, Peeve.
Now you did set a precedent, because my mom's like, oh, when are we going on our little mom-daughter weekend? And I was like, I don't know, Mom.
So set one up for 2025. Don't worry, Mama Peavy. I got you covered, girl. Side note, can I just say that was one of my cherished moments of 2025 already, that we kicked off the year. We being John, LJ and I kicked off the year with Mama PV and Claire, that we got to spend some time. They were in Florida and we went down there and had a pizza party and a bluey party. And we just loved on them. It was absolutely adorable. LJ crawled right up in your mom's lap and cuddled, and girl was a wrap.
And you know what? Everett loves Claire too. Claire is like a kid magnet. I think it's because he's so just present and like, you know, he like gets down on their level and he's just lets them kind of lead with whatever energy they want to bring. And he's like, cool. Like he doesn't get flustered. He's just like even keel, and the kids just eat him up.
He is so calming. Like you can tell his nature is just calming. And he and John are like two little peas in a pod. And I wonder because they're both very calm. He was playing with LJ. LJ was under the table. LJ was throwing die. Your mom had given some dice or die, however you say the plural. I think it's die. And LJ was throwing them and they were bouncing all over the place. And Claire was just smiling. He was perfectly fine, as was your mom.
Everett has laid that path for LJ. He could probably do anything. And they're like, oh, we've seen this before. Yeah, that was very kind of you guys to make time for them while they were in town.
And it was kind of them to make time for us while they were in town, because they had a lot going on too. So those were our cherished moments.
Yeah. Is there anything that you would share in ways of learning and growing? Is there anything you learned from 2024 that you would want to carry forward, or any areas of growth? I mean, I know similar to what you shared in 2023, and we kind of gave a teaser for it too, for 2024, that your business was growing in some interesting and fun ways. And I don't know if you want to share about that, not to plant your what you want to talk about, but it's pretty exciting.
Yeah, it is. In that time when I was resting, it also gave me time to reflect on what parts of my business I still wanted to grow, what parts of my business did I want to maybe fall back from. And one thing that I realized is missing was my real estate. It's in my blood. I mean, I did in the corporate executive level for 20 years in commercial real estate, and I love it. And so I thought there has to be an intersection, not there has to be, there is an intersection between my inclusive leadership in my equity work and celebrating diverse perspectives and people and experiences, there is a correlation between that and real estate because historically, marginalized communities haven't always been welcomed or encouraged to move into neighborhoods that people, quote unquote, did not think they belonged in. And so steering is a real thing. Redlining is a real thing. And although it's not maybe as blatant, although these days it probably is a little bit more blatant than it has been, that is still a real experience for some people in marginalized communities. So I thought, I know commercial real estate from the corporate billionaire standpoint, but it's so hyper-focused on bottom line that really didn't give a lot of focus on the end user. And so I thought, there is something to be said about inclusive real estate, which is I'm a commercial realtor. And so I help small businesses find a place to run their business from and not allowing them to feel down if they are being maybe not considered for some of the commercial communities that they may want to move into or to run their businesses from. So there aren't a lot of women in commercial real estate. There damn sure aren't a lot of Black women in commercial real estate from the sales side and the investment side. So representation matters wherever you are. And so it feels really good to be able to support business owners, small business owners. There's not just my Black and brown brothers and sisters, everybody. I am inclusive, but there is something to be said about a market that needs to be nurtured a little bit more, which are Black and brown business owners looking for a place to run their businesses from. And also helping people build generational wealth, which starts with real estate ownership. And it doesn't have to be just be buying a house. You could buy a multifamily unit where you're living in one floor and you are renting out the others and you're bringing in passive income. And then that is part of your legacy that you leave behind for your children or your nieces or your nephews. So long-winded way of saying I really tapped back into my commercial real estate brain, but not from the corporate standpoint, from the end user. Who is going to benefit from being able to run their business from a place that allows them to generate income, to bring in business, visibility around the services that they provide to the community, and support them in their real estate needs. And also helping people understand that real estate can help you build generational wealth and be a part of the legacy you leave for generations to come. So I'm helping people find commercial real estate and invest in commercial real estate, learn about it, while I'm also working with organizations on how to continue to be inclusive leaders and to be equitable to any and everybody within your organization, period.
That's awesome. So inspiring. I'm sold. Do you have any contacts in Santa Barbara? Because we could stand to get some generational wealth too. Let's do this.
Let's do it. Quite honestly, even though I'm licensed in Florida, I have built and continue to build a referral network across the US. And so, yeah, I'm open to working with agents and investors across the country, because just because you live in Santa Barbara does not mean you may not want to find an investment piece of property in Pennsylvania so you can be close to Heather and Chris and the girls. Being licensed in one state does not keep you from being able to help people nationally build their real estate investment portfolios. And I'd also like to add, people tend to think you have to have millions in the bank to start investing in real estate or commercial real estate. You do not. There are loan programs, there are opportunities, there are ways to pull your funds together.
They're not federal, are they?
That just helped my blood pressure go up a little bit. They're state, but they're also small organizations who focus on bringing money to the forefront for people who want to invest. So yes, I'm glad you're inspired. I hope others are inspired to at least start the conversation about using real estate as a way to build your generational wealth. And that does not mean you need children to do that. Not everybody has kids. That is fine. You can build your legacy through real estate with passing it through family, friends, whoever.
That's awesome, Jay. Thank you for sharing all that. I've been watching you build that part of your business, but I hadn't heard you speak about it like that. It was very inspiring.
Thank you, Peeve.
You're crushing it as usual.
Oh, I appreciate you, Peeve. But I will say that allowing myself to rest meant that I also gave myself time to go get my license as I was healing. So I don't know if that's really considered resting, but while I had downtime and I wasn't taking on more clients as I was healing my breast and healing my mind, I thought, well, I should still go get my license because I didn't need a real estate license for 20 years. I was managing assets for these billion-dollar companies. But to sell it and to help people purchase it, then I needed my license. So I'm with a small broker who is local and he lets me do my thing. And then I can coach and consult and continue doing that We're not one-trick ponies, if you will.
Mm-mm.
We have to continue to remind ourselves that we can do any and everything. If we want to. We don't have to do any and everything, but if we want to, we don't need to pigeonhole ourselves. People will try hard enough to pigeonhole us for us.
I mean, how good does that feel? Because I know we both recently listened back to our reflection episode for 2023 just to kind of remind ourselves where we were at that point and how far we've come this year. How good does it feel to hear yourself speaking then about what you wanted to do in the next year? And then now you're a year later being like, I did the damn thing. I said I was going to do it. I worked hard. I laid the groundwork and here I am. I'm licensed. I'm networking. I'm doing it. I got clients. I'm making deals.
Yeah. I'm on the board of United Way now. I'm leading their women's affinity group and a committee chair for the National Association of Women in Construction for Palm Beach County. But I appreciate you asking that, Peeve.
Because our last episode, you even said it is very important for us to pause and celebrate our wins, not just look forward about what we need to do or what we want to do better, or set more goals. It's celebrating the goals that you've met.
This is why I love you and I need you in my life, because I said it and it sounded so pretty and eloquent when I said it. Celebrate your wins, babies, and slow down. And then I did all of that and I still don't think I slowed down to celebrate it. I'm like, I got it done. Let's go. Now I got to do this. So I didn't take my own advice and slow down and celebrate it. So thank you for asking me how that felt, because I don't think I allowed myself to feel it. I just said, okay, it's what I said I was going to do. And I did it. Now I'm moving on.
So how does it feel?
It feels awesome. It was a reminder that, yes, I was going through my own health journey. Yes. And I didn't allow that to define me. It's definitely a part of my identity and a part of my story. And like most people know, I'm very much a believer of storytelling, because I think that's what I say it all the time. Belonging is rooted in storytelling and connection. So I feel very proud. Of myself.
I was like, can I put this word in your mouth?
That was hard to get out.
This is so interesting. I've said this probably 3 or 4 times on various episodes that some of the approaches that we use with our kids are what we need to use for ourselves and each other. And one of them, I'm sure you do this with LJ, is like, rather than just asking them, what'd you do at school today? And, oh, did you like that? Did you have fun? We're like, what were you proud of today? Or they tell you something that they did. And you're like, didn't that make you feel proud that you were able to do that or that you accomplished that? So I'm like, using that little parenting, like, how did that make you feel, Jamie?
And I'm like, well, thanks for asking.
Proud.
Yes, I am proud of myself for moving through my journey and doing what I said I was going to do, despite of the circumstances that could have led me to put it on the back burner. So I am proud of myself. Can I also say that, yes, I put in the work, but I was able to put in the work because of the people that supported me and encouraged me. What about your growth moment?
Oh, goodness. I guess there's a couple, and I'll be brief about these because these are just the 2 that popped in my mind first. One is, and I did say this at some point, I don't think in that 2023 reflection episode, but at some point throughout the year, I shared that I am just, looking to grow in my career and advance in my career. And I don't exactly know what that looks like yet, but I have definitely been interviewing for some positions and even, being offered some positions and then declining because it just isn't the right fit or the right step to take for that advancement. And I think that is hard to do sometimes when you see a path that you could take and you're just like, there's some appealing things about that, some attractive things about that, but it's just not the right move right now. I still am very glad that I didn't take those options. Not that I didn't, learn from those experiences of interviewing and entertaining those options, but it's nice to be at a phase in my career that I'm a highly competitive candidate and I can be the one to choose where I go next. So, it takes some bravery, I think, to say no. It takes bravery to even stick yourself out there when you're like, I actually really like my job. I love who I work with. I'm passionate about what I do, but I still think I need to be pushed and grow in certain ways. So that's why I have been looking or just keeping my eyes open. But yeah, not jumping at the first thing that falls in my lap.
That is very brave.
Yes, thank you. That has been a good area of growth for me. So I'm still excited to see what happens with my career in 2025 and beyond. So we'll see. I know this is something we want to dedicate an entire episode to, so I'll just say it quickly. And it's everywhere these days for ladies in our age range is I have definitely accepted the fact that I'm fully in perimenopause. Definitely have a lot of the symptoms and challenges, and full circle back to what we're naming this episode, pausing as a mother. I think recognizing, accepting, acknowledging some of the things that are coming up for me, like hormone imbalance and just not really being able to predict how I'm going to feel month to month based on, what's going on with my internal biology. So it's just been sobering and it's not a fun experience, but it's been good to just be like, okay, this is what's happening. There's processes that are going on at this stage of my life that are sort of behind what's manifesting. And it has allowed me to be more present as a spouse and as a colleague and as a parent, to just be really aware of how I'm feeling that day. And there are certain days where I need to be really intentional about pausing before I speak, pausing before I react, pausing before I say something, or even form an opinion, make a judgment. So it's taken some months and months for me to kind of get to that place where I feel okay about doing that. And, I think there's things that I want to do in 2025 to help myself. But like I said, I think we could have a whole episode on that. So I won't go into all of those things.
Acknowledging that you're in that phase is huge, because if denying it takes us down a whole different path. So acknowledging it is like, okay, I see what's happening. I got to just embrace it. I don't know what's coming, but I'm going to embrace whatever that is, because it's life.
Yeah. And it's been a lot of, like I said, sitting in a moment and being like, why am I so affected by this right now? Is it the thing, or is it me, or is it both? It's been really good to have that perspective and context to move about my days.
Are you still doing your group therapy sessions? Is this something that comes up in those sessions?
Yeah, I am. And yes. So there's actually a couple different ladies who are in this phase of life. So it's been kind of nice to go through some of this, either just after they did, or, hearing their stories and their journeys, their challenges, and what has worked and what hasn't worked for them. I have just started sharing in the group about my experience. So it has been helpful.
And I ask that because one of the things I want to do in 2025 is really lean into my therapy sessions. Because if you recall through one of our previous conversations through the podcast, I looked at my therapy sessions as like, you know what, I'm going to go talk to Terry when something's bothering me, because I don't really have anything else to talk to her about, in between those times. And you're like, you probably do. You just got to stay on a consistent cadence with her. And it's true, because the last session, I know this isn't going to be all about our therapy, but the last session I went to, I was like, this should probably be 10 minutes. I really just want to update her on one quick thing. Then I should be good. And we talked the whole hour again. So one of my goals is stop trying to control your emotions and your feelings. Like, stop trying to be so in control of that. Go on your regular cadence with your therapist, because every time you talk to Terry, who is a dynamic therapist, she's amazing. Every time you talk to her, something new comes up. So one of my goals is to get in my regular cadence and to stick with it, because it is beneficial, and not waiting for something to bubble up to the surface.
Yeah. And it's also part of your consistent self-care. And it's why you feel good, because you are investing in carving out time every other week to talk about shit that's going on and get it out. So it's not in a month, you're like, oh man, I wish I would have been working on that. But now it's bubbled up to the surface and I'm raging about it, So this is coming up for Everett. He is seeing his therapist at 5 years old. He's doing better and that's great. And Brett said to me, maybe he doesn't need to see Becca so much anymore. And I was like, or because we have been committed to seeing Becca regularly, he is feeling supported. And so he is doing better. So why would we take one of the legs off the table? If that's what's supporting him, let's not take something away that seems to be helpful.
I could see it through both lenses. I could see it through Brett's lens, which is where he's like, listen, he's thriving. He's doing great. We're good. Maybe we can peel that back. And I can appreciate your lens, which is he's probably doing really well because he has this outlet and he has, like you said, the right support.
I think it's all the things. So I think if we've threw spaghetti at the wall, we saw what stuck. So all the things that stuck that we've now pieced together to be his support system, why would we just start taking stuff off,
For sure. Well, that may be the perfect segue into updates on the boys.
Yeah.
So while you got the mic, you want to keep rolling? Do you want to talk about his program?
Yes. So as you all know, we did a lot to prep our boys for entering a new school in LJ's case, also a new school in Everett's case, but he started his kindergarten. I was very intentional about enjoying the last summer with Everett before he started school. So I feel really, really good about that. Like I can look back and be like, we really had a great summer before he now is in the system. So yeah, he's in the system. And as you all may recall, he was supposed to go to our local school. And then like 3 or 4 days before school started, we got the call that he got into our dual language immersion program, which is a lottery. And we were literally the last ones admitted before the start of school. So we had to switch gears, get him his uniform, tell him that all of his school was going to be in Spanish. And he was like, what? So he had a bit of whiplash at the beginning. We were also kind of most of the way through his assessment, because reminder that we were getting him assessed for any sort of neurodivergence or any disorder or challenge that he might have that could impact his success at school. So we wanted to make sure that if there was anything going on that was like clinical, that we could actually get an IEP or a 504 in place with the school. So he was most of the way through that. The remaining part was getting some input from his teacher at kindergarten, so he had to be in kindergarten for, I forget how many weeks it was, like 8 or 16 weeks before they wanted the teacher to get to know him before providing feedback. And then they took those assessments from home and from school and from his preschool and summer camps and stuff to make the full assessment. So anyway, he started kindergarten and the first week was wonderful. And I think that's when we did our we had that kindergarten readiness episode and now the boys started school and isn't everything hunky-dory? It's so wonderful. So I don't know if Everett thought it was another summer camp or just a little, this is fun, learned Spanish for a week or what. But yeah, he did great the first week, maybe the first 2 weeks. And then the wheels fell off. Then he was like, I thought I was going to that other school. Like, what's this mess about? And he had a hard transition into kindergarten. So the structure of kindergarten, just like sitting on a rug, having to sit in a chair at a desk for a long extended period of time, focusing on a lesson in another language, standing in a line, going from A to B. Because remember, he was more of a forest school child in preschool. So we kind of knew those things would be challenging for him. But I think adding the language barrier kind of sent his anxiety through the roof. And so what we learned through this diagnosis process was we eventually did get a diagnosis in the fall just of social anxiety. It was not ADHD, which we were thinking was probably going to be the case. So we thought he was going to get this ADHD diagnosis. So that was kind of a shock, but it was super helpful because we got all this input from the doctor that made a lot of sense. And she gave us a bunch of tips that gave us kind of permission to let some of these expectations go or lower them that were kind of adding unnecessary bounds on, or constraints on Everett that were just hindsight's 2020, but were kind of part of the problem. So that's helped a lot, just knowing that and then communicating with the school. And Yeah, he was kirking out, man. I mean, we were getting like daily communications from the school and from the teacher, and he just had a lot of behavioral issues. He was regressing in a lot of ways with like his physicality and just kind of being defiant. And we were like, let's pull him out of school. I mean, we got to like the bottom of the barrel at some point. We were like, maybe he's just not mature enough for school. You know, a lot of kids or a lot of parents are holding their kids back until they're 6 to start kindergarten.
Oh, I hadn't heard that.
It's called redshirting. Some of the kids just, you know, that's how they age into kindergarten is they are 6 when they start. But then some of the kids like Everett are really young. I mean, he's one of the youngest kids in his class, even though he's the tallest. And, you know, boys are typically more immature anyway. So a young 5-year-old white kid in a Hispanic class, he was in Struggle Town. So we were thinking, maybe we made the wrong choice on all fronts. Like maybe we shouldn't have put him in a dual language immersion program to add another layer of anxiety. Maybe we should have kept him back and not started him till he was 6. But we stuck with it. We had a lot of communication, probably too much communication, if I'm being honest, with the school psychologist and his teacher and the principal. And now there's also a counselor who actually is amazing, probably.
Oh, good.
Like has turned out to be Everett's person. He's awesome. So I feel like everyone knows us. We know everyone. Everyone knows Everett, you know, for better or worse, through all of these countless communications that we've had. But I think the good part of that is they know that we are supportive as a family to what needs to happen at school, because this dual language immersion school is also a little bit more strict, I think, than a normal school. So that's something that we all had to just buy into and commit to, which I think in the long run will be helpful for Everett. It was just hard in the beginning. So I think they know like we're all on the same team. We're all in it together. I'm not saying it has been easy. We haven't seen eye to eye on everything, but at least we've been able to talk about it and we all know that we're working towards the same goals. And then what has been really nice is around Halloween, Dia de los Muertos, Everett found out that this culture that he is in this community is very much into performing in song and dance. And he's like, oh, hey.
Sign me up.
Oh my gosh. Okay. So one of his little classmates was Michael Jackson for Halloween. And in their little Halloween parade, unsolicited, unprompted, they were all waiting because, you know, they were trying to organize around the little playground there to do their parade. And so little Michael Jackson, Mateo's like, oh, I can entertain the whole school. So he got out in the middle, again, unprompted, did the entire Thriller dance solo by himself in his little Michael Jackson costume. And Everett was like, I want to be that. He was like, yes. So now he's, for better or worse, in love with Michael Jackson, but also in love with performing. And so then they had this Dia de los Muertos festival and performance, and we knew he was going to perform. And we were like, are you going to be singing or dancing or what is the performance? He's like, I don't know. I'm like, okay, well, this could be interesting. We went, he was front and center. He knew every dance step. He was on beat. Everyone was kind of following his lead. He was shining bright like a little star. I was like, oh, this is so cute. Like he found his thing.
Yeah.
And ever since then, he's been doing great. We literally have no issues anymore. Maybe it was a coincidence. Time of year, they do say like once they just kind of stop resisting the language, learning a new language, that starts clicking. They start understanding more. They start resisting less. They just buy into the program. But I have to think he started his hip hop classes. He is at the front of that class, only boy, at the mirror, just
getting it,
locked in on himself in the mirror, doing all of his Michael Jackson moves. Woo, yeah. And then they had their winter performance, which was all the Christmas, holiday, Hanukkah songs in Spanish. And he was, again, front and center. Like, I do not play with my performances.
Listen.
And neither does anyone else. And that's what we love about this school is like, because it's part of the culture, nobody is too cool for this. Everyone, all the 6th graders, fallen right in line. They have all of their costumes. They are looking sharp. They hit their marks. It is just so, it's really heartwarming. And Everett's like, yes, these are my people. Let's do this.
I love that he found his sense of belonging and connection.
Yes. Yes. I'm not going to lie. He's still having some issues with like what I would call bullying at school. You know, there's still things we're dealing with, but it's not like we're getting calls and we think he's going to get kicked out of the school like we were. So it was a rough fall. I'm not going to lie. It was a rough fall.
I love that Everett has found his place. LJ has adjusted really well to his new environment. I will say this. He is the youngest, like Everett, in his class, or one of the youngest. LJ is very vocal about his disdain of coloring. He's like, this is boring.
Where is the solar system?
Right.
Like this, let's take it up a notch, people. Coloring, come on. Remedial.
Come on.
Bring on the STEM.
Which is funny you say that because I'm like, John, I keep saying we need to get him in like a science camp because he's so hyper-focused on his planets. And like you said, for better or for worse, I think it's a great thing that he has found his passion, which is he's definitely a science kid, like without a doubt. We were doing science projects at home because I have to find ways to keep him entertained. And we did the old school volcanoes where I got the little paper, the toilet paper rolls, cut them in half, put some baking soda, some vinegar, and some little red food coloring. Volcanoes all day. We had a good time. So we put it on FaceTime so my parents could watch him make his volcano. And he had those little fake glasses you get from the kit, the medical kit. Girl, yeah, and one of the little things had fallen off. So he had one ear, but he had his glasses on. He was rocking it. So my mom says, oh, those are the glasses that you wear when you're a doctor. And he said, Grandma, I'm a scientist.
Hell yeah, you are, LJ.
You're his auntie. Listen. And then she said, oh, you're making volcanoes. Have you seen a real volcano? And he said, yes. And I was thinking, you have, brother? Because where did you go that I wasn't?
We live in Florida. Okay, the highest point is a landfill.
It's not a volcano. Do you know what he said? Yeah, I've seen a real volcano. And I was like, huh. My mom said, oh, have you? Where? And he said, there's a volcano on Mars. And I said, oh, okay. And I said, do you know the name of the volcano? And he said, its name is Olympus Mons. And so my mom was on in her house, my mom and my dad on Alexa, what's the name of the mountain or the volcano on Mars? And I'm like, Olympus Mons. I'm like, there you go. So you can talk about Olympus Mons in the solar systems, but if you give that kid a crayon, there is not a line he does not like to color over. He is all outside of that. So it's been an interesting dynamic in that we had our first like meeting with the teachers and they have these kids. Now he's in pre-K 4. They have them doing these computerized tests where they can time you out if you don't like answer the questions and you get like a score. So from us and everybody that knows LJ and how much he loves to do these science things and he can count and add and subtract, like he's a STEM kid, the math and the science all day. If you sit him in front of that computer and you're like, it's going to time out, he's like, okay, cool. So when you look at his scores or some of the tests, they were like math was up here, reading and stuff, which he totally knows his letters and stuff. Girl, it was like an 18%. And then we'd ask the teacher, well, what happened? She was like, oh, he timed out on the entire test because he got distracted and was looking over in the corner.
Yeah. Also, why are we testing 4-year-olds? I don't know. This seems a little extreme.
It's intense. And I will tell you, it is the best environment for LJ. Mm-hmm. Hands down. I feel like he feels seen, that belonging piece. We went to his holiday pajama jammy jam, girl, in the cafeteria, like an old school public school party with all the kids going up to 5th grade. Do you think he cared that he was around those 5th graders? He was bouncing. He found his little friend. They were holding hands and dancing. He has found his element. And so now the balance is he loves his school. He loves his teachers. And I think as a mom, it's my challenge of making sure I don't start helicopter momming because I have it in me because I'm like, you're getting tested and you got to pass these tests because that impacts in kindergarten. Then they say that kindergarten's like 1st grade. And so I'm trying to get out of my own head because he has homework now. He comes home with homework and we have to do it every
bonkers.
Night. But I enjoy it. And this is the nerd in me. I enjoy it because I'm like, I know now what the expectations of you are. It sounds crazy. I know he's 4. And I find myself getting frustrated because I'm like, dude, you know this stuff. Why are you looking in the corner and out of the window. And then I have to remind myself, because he's 4. And he doesn't want to sit here and look at you or look at anybody else. He wants to run around or work on his puzzles, which he's big into now.
Let me tell you, Mama PV was like, LJ is gifted. Like, he is doing math. And I was like, I know. I know. He's a STEM kid for sure. And that's why I'm like, oh my God, coloring, Everett is the same. Not that I'm not saying Everett's a benchmark by any means, but I'm just saying, like, the kids are all over the place. They're 4 and 5 years old. They're coloring outside of the lines. I would just focus on the STEM, like the coloring, all that crap. That'll catch up, whatever.
For sure.
I try to tell Everett, he's like already a perfectionist. I hope LJ is not like this, but Everett has the perfectionist though. So if he's working on something and he's not perfect, he has a really hard time with it. He's very hard on himself. And I'm like, dude, I cannot draw anything but a stick figure. And I have a PhD. So do not worry. It does not matter. You will find your thing. You will be good enough at all the other things to keep it rolling. Like, just don't worry about it.
Just chill.
It's easier to say than to do. I know. But so LJ's rocking it.
He's rocking it. And I'm checking my own self at times because I also don't want him, and it sounds crazy, to fall behind. And thank you, Mama PV, for that compliment. That's very sweet. My little man loves his math and his science. But I also am aware, as his teacher has said, like, once he gets to kindergarten, at least in this environment, they move. And if he's like lollygagging and taking his time, it's not a reflection of how much he knows, but it's how much he can demonstrate in order to keep moving through. So we're not worried per se. We know he'll be just fine in kindergarten, but I have to remind myself not to helicopter mom, but thank you.
It's hard. They tried to hit us with some homework. I think, like November or something, like Halloween week. I think they hit us with some homework. I was like, we're not going to do this. Like, we don't get home until after 5 most days. The kid has to eat, get a bath, relax, and be in bed by 7:30. Like, when are we supposed to do this homework, especially on a holiday week? Like,
yeah,
nice try. I mean, we did it maybe once or twice, but we didn't do it. I'm like, why don't we do it over a weekend? Give us something on Friday to turn on Monday. We have 2 whole days to do it. That sounds a lot more reasonable. So, I mean, I don't have any bones about pushing back a little bit to be like, yeah, we're not going to do that in kindergarten.
Yeah.
We're just not going to
And
do
I'm
that.
like, you got your homework? We got to go, kid. Okay. You got to go. Yes. We can go outside and kick the soccer ball and look at the butterflies and the lizards. But right now, the routine, you get home, you take your shoes off, you take your school clothes off because you can't bring those germs into the house. And then you do your homework. And then when you're done with your homework, it's game on, brother, till you have to take a bath. So
he doesn't have it every night, does he? Homework every single night?
2 weeks ago, they sent home weekly homework. So a packet for the week, and you do 10 minutes a day, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and then you turn it in the following Monday. You can still do Saturday and Sundays if you make up for the week. But no, he has homework that comes home with him every Friday, and he has to start it that Monday. They ain't playing. And this is public school. It's a Montessori magnet. The private school that they sent him to that we were paying all that money for, they're like, you ain't sitting on no damn homework. Yeah. Maybe they would have this year, but I appreciate it because it takes some onus off of me trying to find things to do to keep him up to speed.
Yeah.
But I also am like, there are other parts of him that need to continue nurturing through science and math because that is his happy place. So, and his teachers are time enough for him. They will check him, which my child needs. So,
same.
Yeah.
Same.
And especially in this political climate right now, we are thankful that he's where he is. There's a lot that's going to potentially happen in that school environment, given some of these new changes that are rolling down. So he's in the right environment, and we'll have to see how things play out with all the political stuff.
Yeah. I mean, just to keep it real, I know this is on your mind too, because obviously Everett School is mostly Hispanic. We're one of a handful of white families. And we were just saying that LJ's is 70,
like 80%
Hispanic. Yeah. So this new deportation stuff coming down from Washington on Sunday night, I didn't have to. I chose to show Everett a picture of ICE so he could see what that uniform looks like versus our Santa Barbara Police Department. Because if they've had police officers come in to the school and answer questions, and Everett knows like they're there to protect and keep everybody safe. So I just needed him to know that ICE was a different story, that they were there to do something else. So it was good. Like, he totally understood. You know, he got that if he saw the Santa Barbara police, everything's fine. If he sees ICE, he needs to go tell an adult, a safe adult, that they're present so that they can handle the situation. So it just makes me really sad that that's what's happening, and that I have to tell my 5-year-old, whatever color his skin is, that that is what's happening. And I don't recall as a 5-year-old knowing even who the president was, what was happening in the world around me. I just trusted that the adults were taking care of it and were keeping everybody safe in places like schools and churches. And that's just not happening right now. So it's just a really kind of sad state of affairs. Anyway, just to comment on what you were saying, that I think, you know, there's going to be some new challenges in 2025 in our respective schools.
And communities.
Yeah, it sucks.
With that.
Okay, so what we still wanted to do was hear from you about your next pause, which then will kind of lead us to talking about our, as in the podcast's next pause.
Yes. So I'll give very quick Cliff's notes. From a health perspective, I'm doing wonderfully. I mean, I got to start exercising a little bit more, but I feel good. All of this stuff is done. My last surgery was June 19th, Juneteenth of 2024, which is so crazy to think that was 6 months ago. And it still feels like ages ago now, but my last surgery was successful. I'm feeling good. I still have to do my tattooing to make it all look natural, like back to my natural breasts, but I feel really good. And part of having the BRCA2 genetic mutation is being aware of all the other cancers that are associated with it. And the next top one for BRCA2 people, or that have the genetic mutation, let me be clear, because people say BRCA2 gene. It's not the gene, it's the mutation of the gene, is to get your ovaries, to have an oophorectomy, because ovarian cancer, we're at high risk of that as well. And they like to typically see your ovaries out before you're 45 or by 45. Well, this is my 45th year. And I said, well, I'm not going to wait till October. Yeah. Like, why wait till October 1st? Yeah. Like, I'm going to be 45 soon. So I went for a consult with an oncology gynecologist who's part of the practice. And we pretty much had a conversation like, listen, lady, you can do the oophorectomy and take your ovaries and tubes out, or we can do all of the above and do a full hysterectomy, because what she has seen in her experience is some people with the BRCA2 mutation have taken the ovaries out in the fallopian tubes and then have had, her words, other bad cancers come back into the cervix and the uterus. And I'm like, listen, are y'all gonna be in there poking around? Just take it all out so I can just be done. And I recognize that I cannot remove all of my body parts. None of us can completely eliminate the risk of cancers or any other diseases happening. But if there are certain things that we can do to be proactive, I push for those and I will do them, because I have an amazing family and amazing sisters and a really cool little kid that I want to be present for as long as I can. So I am having a full hysterectomy on February 3rd. PV's sister Heather is a doll, and she has gone through not the same exact experience with the hysterectomy, but variations of it. She still had a full hysterectomy. It just wasn't as planned as she thought it was going to be because of stuff that happened. But I talked to her the other day. PV was like, you should talk to Heather. Homegirl gave me a list of things that I could do to prepare for my hysterectomy, for the surgery itself and the healing. So thankful for you, Heather, for laying it all out there. I love the openness. And so I have massive boxes coming to my house today, yesterday, and until Sunday to prep me for my surgery on Monday. So I'm not really worried about the surgery. I can deal with pain. I've had a C-section, double mastectomy, ACL tears, Achilles reconstruction. But what's top of mind for me is the immediate plunge into menopause, which happens like I wake up and I'm in menopause. So I'm interested in seeing how all of that plays out. If everybody loves me the way they do, y'all just have to just roll with me, because I don't know hormonally, emotionally, like what's going to happen. But I did talk to my mom about her oophorectomy. And she said that she didn't really have a lot of mood swings. She didn't have a lot of hot flashes. So I'm like, okay, I'm going to take that experience and all of the other experiences and just say, no, two stories are the same. And I don't know what's going to happen until I wake up, but I can't stress over what I don't have control over. So I'm just going to go with it and see.
Yeah, that's really good. I know I shared my friend Steph and her sisters who have the mutation as well.
Yeah.
Had an extreme case of all of sort of the negative symptoms of being thrust into the menopause overnight. But then my sister, as you know, because you just heard from her, had a more similar experience to your mom where things were a lot more mild. You know, she was so prepared because that's my sister. She's just prepared always in life for anything, especially the worst case scenario. You know, going back to what we talked about earlier, that was one of my cherished moments was I visited my sister after her hysterectomy and oophorectomy. And like I said, she had it all under control. It wasn't like I needed to be there to help her along like medically in any way, but I just wanted to be there to support in spirit and emotionally and do what I could do physically and be there. But it was more inspiring for me, honestly. And I'm sure you were inspired by talking to her too. I thought she set such a great example for her girls and for me and anyone else who was observing her in that time period that she was like, I'm going to take care of me right now. I got to double down, pause, focus on me, because if I don't have my oxygen mask on, I can't put anyone else's on.
That's exactly
and
right.
Now I'm the largest need in my life right now is me. I was really proud of her and inspired by how she took care of herself. So I'm really glad she was able to share some of that with you too.
She was. And she'd mentioned, because I told her, I said, did you know that Peeve is coming to Florida to love on me and take care of me? And you and Nell are coming down making the trip. My parents are coming here. And I said, but Peeve, ride or die, man. My double mastectomy came. We're coming for this. You give the best massages. And Heather was like, oh, Peavy came and she took care of me. And she was here with me when I had my hysterectomy as well. I said, she's a good egg. So I'm thankful for you in coming down, you and Ellie for coming down for this and everybody else that couldn't make the trip that will be there in spirit. So thank you.
I'm excited.
I am too. I'm actually, it sounds crazy to say I'm excited about doing a hysterectomy, but I'm excited because I know it's something that I'm doing to take care of myself and to make sure that my little man has me for as long as he can. And John too. I shouldn't say just a little man. John, you count too, baby. I love you too. But yeah, I'm excited to get it over with so I can heal and move on with this chapter of my life.
Yeah, it's interesting that you say it in that way because my sister was the same. She was excited for it to happen, get over with, keep moving on with life. And like you said, hers was a little different. She had all these fibroids that were causing all these problems. So her surgery was actually like a massive C-section. So, you know, she did have a little bit of a long recovery, but you know, it went really well because she was so prepared and she was so focused on healing and just taking care of herself. My poor brother-in-law, if he had to open another box from wherever she was ordering stuff from. No. Anyway, I'm glad that you're excited because I think that means that you're really confident in your decision and it's the right thing to do at the right time. And it's going to be great.
Thank you, Peeve. And one thing I've also been working on, which I think comes into play with this, is that being able to sit and to rest is also rooted in me reminding myself that what is for me is for me. Because previously I've been like, I can't stop working. I got to go. I got to do this. If I'm not at this event, that means I'm not networking. I'm not meeting people and blah. And that was always in my thought because it was hard for me to like feel like I was missing out on opportunities. And my therapist has said this, and this book that I'm reading, which will drop in, The Garden Within, with which both Meech suggested years ago and my therapist just suggested. So we'll drop that. It's great. But it's a reminder that what is for you is for you. You resting and disconnecting for a month does not mean that it's going to impact what's coming your way. I guess it's a way of saying it. Like, what's for you is for you. So you don't have to stress about it. Heal. Rest.
I love that. I have not heard that.
So thank you, Michi. Thank you, Terry, for that suggestion. I've been reading that book and it is dynamic, but it's a reminder of it's okay to rest. You don't have to stress about what deal you're going to miss or what opportunity you're going to miss because it's what's for you is for you and it'll be there when you're done healing.
Perfect segue into speaking about our next pause, which is the podcast. We've had an awesome 2 seasons. I think we've surpassed a lot of the things we've imagined we were going to be able to discuss with experts we hadn't even met yet, when we launched this thing. And it's been really awesome. Yeah. And I've doing it with you, of course.
Me too, Peeve.
But it just kind of seems like a good time to pause because you're about to go into surgery again and into healing mode again. Mm-hmm. And then you're going to need some time to get back into your businesses, as we talked about earlier. And I have been really excited about 2 things during this pause. Like I've been kind of thinking, okay, we're going to have a little bit more free time if we pause our podcast.
Yeah.
And then we're going to pick it up later on in the year. And one is to implement a lot of the things that we've been talking about. So some of the stuff we talk about on the podcast is stuff that we're actively working on, but some is like, oh, we need to do this, we need to do that, or we should be doing that, or I want to do that. Like, I'll just give you a very tangible example, the updating our estate plan, which we had made this goal of doing before the end of the year. And we didn't quite reach that goal. And then just things are happening, like LA is on fire, or the nation's on fire. Lots of things are happening right now.
Yeah.
So anyway, I just think it's going to be really good for me and my little family to pause in that way, and for me to have like space and time to implement some of the things we've been talking about. And then the other thing that I want to make time and money for is seeing my people. And I know I've talked to you about this. Is just, it comes in waves, but I just feel, especially right now, I've been feeling more kind of lonely and isolated in just where we are in our life, and I don't think I can't point to any one thing and like blame it on that. But I just want to pay attention to that and like give it space to be a motivator for me to go and do something about it. So I want to take action about it. I don't want to just sit here and wallow and feel sorry for myself. Like, oh, my people, they're not here and I feel lonely. So I want to do something about it and just make time to have girls' weekends or go travel and visit. Like my girlfriend, Lindsay, in New Jersey, I still haven't seen her house. She's done so much to it. And so I want to go see her and, there's so many people I want to connect with that I think about all the time and I miss all the time. And even if I reach out to them, call them or text them, it's just not the same as just getting some quality in-person time. So I really want to make space for that. And I think this pause, even though I will miss carving out the time,
of course,
to do our podcast recordings, I think taking a little pause will allow me to work on those 2 things this year. So
yeah. And we'll both come back refreshed, and re-energized and a renewed energy, renewed passion, and then we rock. But there's power in resting. So I think this is the perfect time for us to, at the end of season 2, 24th episode, what better way to pause and then get geared up as the year progresses.
Yeah, so don't go anywhere, y'all. We'll be back.
We're coming back. We're just taking a break to rest for a little bit for our respective reasons.
And we have a lot of things we want to talk about that we've been putting in the queue. So things like I would love to have you and Heather and whoever else on to talk about a hysterectomy, oophorectomy, and all of that. And being thrust into menopause overnight. I mean, I won't have much to add to that conversation, but I think being cheerleader in that sense, but you all will be a wealth of knowledge from your experiences at that point. And talking either in that conversation or separately about perimenopause, but specifically hormone replacement therapy, which I think will be interesting for you to bring in your situation in because you're not eligible or, it's not safe for you to do the traditional therapy like it would be for me. So I think that would be a really dynamic conversation to bring an expert in on.
For sure. Maybe we get some of the oncology gynecologists on. Yeah, because it's to Peevy's point, because of my BRCA2 mutation and because I've already had breast cancer, I am not a candidate for the hormone replacement therapy that they typically recommend for your hormones post hysterectomy. So I'm freestyling. I'm a freestyle it and see how it goes. And then we'll take it day by day. So I agree. There are lots of other topics that we can lean into. So once we rest and feel good and back in the groove, then we'll pick back up with you all in that community. But we're so thankful for even getting us and riding with us to this point. To 2 full seasons it's just dynamic.
Yeah, it's been awesome.
Well, Peeve, I love you. I mean, we're talking like we ain't going to see each other. I'll see you in 3 weeks.
I'll see you in a few weeks.
All right.
But yeah, that's a wrap on season 2.
We've done a lot. So we're looking forward to picking back up.
Thanks, everybody. Thank you so much for being here and for supporting us. And we still will take your ratings and your reviews. That would be awesome.
That's right.
Help queue us up for season 3.
Yep. And we're also still open to your suggestions on topics you want us to cover. Hit us up on IG still. Just because we'll be off the grid from the podcast standpoint does not mean we're off the grid altogether. So if you think of something, hit us up and we'll talk to you soon. Go call your best friend.
Go call your best friend. Love you, Jay.
Love you, Beef.
Bye. Thank you so much for listening and being part of our conversation and our inner circle.
Follow us on Instagram, _It's a Mother Podcast. And we look forward to you and your best friends joining us next episode.
Leave a rating on this podcast app. It really helps us get our conversations to more friends out there, more friendship circles, and more women and more mothers. And that's what we're here for, to broaden the conversation, to bring everybody into the circle.
Thank you for listening. Thank you for joining us. We'll talk to you soon.
Go call your best friend.